And welcome to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live exclusively. For some reason, Alex, I got to keep saying exclusively.
Yeah, you got to stop
And
saying that.
I know, and well, it's been the first part of this process. I mean, like it's been what 13 years just on the radio alone,
I know.
but now we've decided to pick up YouTube and simulcast over there. So, if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for tuning in there as well. Tonight's pretty cool, pretty special. Somebody new to the show, and I want to say like I said in Q, I'm pretty impressed with it. Like I said, the podcast, now the podcast, because it originally started out as a YouTube
That's right. Yeah.
series and has jumped over to podcast. And I must say, if you have not catched or caught,
That's
excuse
yeah.
me,
Learn speak
caught.
English.
I know. I'm tired, man. It's been a long day. If you have not caught any of Mr. X Dreams, uh, go to YouTube and check them out. I mean, the stories, the experiences, and like I said, his voice. And you're gonna hear it. You're gonna see it. You know what? To me, that's the game changer, right? The voice. I mean, and I want to welcome Mr. X. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you guys for having me, for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's good to meet you both in virtual person.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
It's one of
Yeah.
those. It's one of those. Those lockdown sort of scenarios, right?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much no different than the way I would meet anybody else right now.
Exactly. So it's like I was telling Steve also in the queue, or even you guys. I've been listening to your podcast on and off for at least I'd say about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and it's one of those things. I've always enjoyed the narration part. I listen to a lot of other YouTubers as well who do sort of narration, horror story narrations. I know yours is not exclusively horror stories. You deal a lot with dreams and sort of dream interpretations, kind of. Not just your own, but your listeners as well, who can write in and sort of give their experience, and you sort of analyze it at the end of the actual show. So give our listeners a sort of an idea of kind of what kind of material you focus on, or you have focused on, and you're planning on focusing on.
Well, it all started with dreams, my dreams in particular. And I like my first several videos were just, and the whole idea of going online and sharing anything came from me having dreams. I've always had these really deep and crazy stories of, excuse me, one second. Sorry about that. I've always had these really deep and involved dreams and nightmares. It kind of runs in my family. And I started making videos about that. And then I also started making videos about these paranormal experiences that people in my family have told me over, many years. And when I started getting into that, then I started getting emails from people and comments saying, "Hey, I had this similar thing happen to me. It was shadow people or black-eyed children or ghosts and what have you." And eventually, it kind of became like that. And throughout that experience, and looking at these people sending me emails about their paranormal experiences, it kind of got me into the idea of writing and storytelling. And then I kind of started mixing in some of my own fiction, short stories, and stuff like that. So I kind of just end up being a jack of all trades in terms of narration. But yeah, that's how it is right now, pretty much.
And you're doing a great job at it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of those
Well,
things
thank
where
you.
it's like, as Steve mentioned earlier, you have the perfect voice for this sort of thing. It's very sort of deep melodic kind of voice that sort of gets that sort of ambience, for lack of a better term,
You could really,
across.
like, for instance, if somebody is to go and just listen to the podcast and listen to the audio version of it, they would really, I think, with how you're relaying it and telling it, and of course with your voice, you can really sort of get the atmosphere and Alex, the ambience
Yeah.
of what people are trying to relay to you, and how you're like saying, well, look at this, this story came to me from so and so, and most people would say, well, look, I can't really tell a story. I could write something, but I can't really tell it. But and then they pass it along to someone like you, and bang. I mean, I could read something and it wouldn't be as effective, that's for sure. But I mean, with you, with your voice and everything else, relaying it really, you really, like, the listener really gets an idea of what, you know, not to expect.
Yeah.
Mm.
Exactly.
Well, well, that's some good feedback. I appreciate that. I think the biggest part of it is just, and I kind of suffer from this myself. I don't when I wake up from a nightmare, I write it down, but
Mhm.
it doesn't come out like ready for YouTube.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
you I kind of look at when people send me an email or tell me their story, I look at that and then I kind of process it through the eyes of someone who's not had the experience themselves.
Hmm.
And because I've had experiences of my own and dreams of my own, I kind of know what the person means when they write the raw data that they write into the email to me. Sometimes I get stuff that is a hot mess and it's crazy and it makes no sense, but when I'm reading it, I put myself in that person's shoes and then I kind of build that narrative around it so that the person who has nothing to do with this and has never even experienced anything like it will be able to wrap their heads around it and kind of guide them through the experience.
What kind of feedback have you got overall? Has it been generally pretty positive?
Yeah, actually, I have, and I've been even told this by other YouTubers,
Hmm.
that I have one of the most positive, like, audiences of all YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I'm very fortunate. And
Yeah, yeah, you do.
even there, even
I can tell by the comments that you get that everybody's sort of in tune with what you're doing and
oh
is
yeah,
at the same level. You know.
yeah, and if they're not, then they're cool with it.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of people just saying stupid stuff or hating on each other.
Yeah.
I rarely delete a comment, or I've been known on occasion to kind of flame someone a little bit if they're disrespectful to other other commenters or other people,
Mm.
you know. But other than that, it's a rare thing to have any negativity in my comment section. And now that I've said that, it's probably going to kind of start flooding in.
Yeah.
Well, that's a positive thing then. I mean, it's good to hear that people are really warming up to what you're doing and relaying. That's really good. So, I know you went into how things became with the paranormal and nightmares and stuff like that. Uh, what kind of did you want to get into maybe some sort of experiences that you might have had like through the paranormal? Is there anything that you've experienced in the paranormal that you'd like to talk about?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, a few strange things. I mean, there's so many genres and so many different types of experiences out there, and I've been exposed to even more doing this show on YouTube. So people telling me about things that I've never even heard of before, different weird creatures, cryptids,
Hmm.
stuff like that. My experiences, the ones that are the most solid for me, like as in I've considered every possibility and it just doesn't seem like I'm mistaken about it. Like something weird definitely happened and it wasn't just my imagination. It wasn't just me being a child and having a fanciful view of the world and my own existence. But okay, for example, glitch in the matrix. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a part of a it's this kind of it's something that's been boggling my mind for many years now, right? But this is one of my most confusing and solid experiences. If you'd like to hear about that.
Sure.
So when I was about 13, my dad was a cop. I grew up my whole life. He just retired a few years ago.
Okay.
He's been a cop my whole life. And one day I was in my room at home taking a nap, right? I woke up and I heard my mother on the phone. God rest her soul, she just passed last year.
Sorry.
I heard my mother on the phone crying, and I went into her bedroom to find out what was going on, what was wrong. And this is afternoon, broad daylight, maybe 3 p.m. My mother told me that my father had been shot
Oh.
while on duty. And I was taken aback by that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And she was hysterical. And I said, okay, well, where is he? What's going on? Is he okay? Did he survive? Did he die? She says, no, he survived. And I stayed with my mother, comforting her for what seemed like several hours.
Mm-hmm.
My father came home in uniform and showed me a ballistic plate from his vest
Mm-hmm.
that was struck by a bullet.
Yeah.
And the plate, I remember distinctly, it was a silver in color, maybe a quarter inch thick plate that was it was pretty lightweight though.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the area where the bullet had impacted was so close to the edge that it literally warped the upper edge of the plate. So if you think about it, if that was like a half an inch higher, it would have missed the plate.
Yeah.
That's how close to the edge it was.
Wow.
And that was something that, at my age, even at my age of 13, it was shocking to me. I was like, oh my goodness, this was a really close call.
Mm-hmm.
And it really kind of messed me up. So I went in back to my bedroom and called my best friend, and I wasn't crying or anything, but I was really kind of out of it, and I was saying, man, yeah, my dad got shot. He almost died. And I didn't talk about that with my parents. I never like sat down and we never had a conversation as a family about the fact that that happened. So maybe almost 20 years later,
Mm-hmm.
about 15 years later, I was in my early 30s. Yeah, yeah, about 20 years later. One day I just decided to talk to my parents about that after all those years. And I went to their room. I was visiting with my family, and I said, "Hey, mom, dad, remember that time where dad almost got shot? Well, I mean, where dad got shot and almost died?" And they both looked at me like, "What are you talking about? That never happened."
Wow.
And I thought to myself, "No, no, don't do this, guys." I literally stood there for about 10 minutes trying to convince them of this memory that I had that was so crystal clear. And eventually I said, "You know what? Wait a minute. Let me call my best friend because I know I called him and spoke to him. He's the only person I ever mentioned it to that, like contemporaneously at the time."
Yeah.
I called him and I said, "Hey, do you remember when I called you and I was pretty upset and I said that my father had been shot?" He said, "Yeah, I remember that. What about it?" This dude, I've known him since I was 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're close. And I said, "Well, now they're telling me right now. They just told me that that never happened."
Hmm.
And so I literally spent a year or two just thinking, okay, well, no, I guess maybe I was dreaming or something, and I guess I just spontaneously woke up and called my best friend and told him that my father had been shot. It doesn't seem like something I would ever do. I've never done anything like that. But I was giving myself kind of not the opposite of the benefit of the doubt, whatever that is. And I was even thinking, you know what? Because I'm a police officer now myself,
Okay.
and I know that. I mean, I was like, man, wait a minute. I've never seen a ballistic, a body armor that has that kind of ballistic plate in it. And I was like, maybe that was just my childlike mind at 13 coming up with that fact, that
Yeah.
idea. And so I kind of just surreptitiously called my dad. And this is, a couple of years later. He probably doesn't even remember that I asked him this question before, or I told him about this incident. I said, I called him and said, "Hey, Dad, can you explain like the components of your body armor from the 90s? You know, the mid to late 90s." And he said, "Yeah, it was like the soft panels, Kevlar, and the inner vest and all that stuff." And I was like, "Okay, so there was no metallic panel or anything like that in it. There was
Uh-huh.
nothing metal." He said, "Oh no, yeah, there was a rectangular metal thing that slides in the pocket in front of your heart, which is exactly where I thought it should be." So I was
Yeah.
kind of convincing myself, "Oh wait, yeah, maybe this was just fantasy," but it turns out that that actually is a component that he had in that station, at that time,
Wow.
and that just gave it more credibility in my mind. But at the same time, no one else seems to remember it actually happening but me.
Huh.
So, is it? Because I remember you relating this story on your podcast and YouTube channel to some degree. Um, is it possible at all? Do you think that maybe instead of a dream, you kind of slip to an alternate universe?
That is the question, my friend. I That's the thing that has continued to impress upon my mind quite a bit. I mean, to the point where the concept of that, I'm writing a fantasy novel with that as part of the main magic about the fantasy. And I've had so many theories and experiences, especially with my dreams, that make me think that somehow we're connected to more than just this dimension. There may be some places and some times with some people, the membrane or the veil that separates one dimension from the next is it's a little bit thinner. It's a
Hmm.
little bit more permeable and easier to pass through, maybe for certain people, maybe in certain moments, maybe at certain geographic locations on the earth. And there's honest for some unfortunately there's no way to really prove that's right or wrong right now, so I choose to just have an open mind about it.
Hmm.
But it's one of the most fascinating concepts to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve and I have talked about this ad
Hmm.
nauseum over the 13 years that we've done this show. We've had
Yes.
multiple guests on talking about, different possibilities, ranging from multiple universes or even, well, a myriad of different things. When you're talking about the paranormal, it's really a very large umbrella that encompasses a whole bunch of things.
Hmm.
We've even discussed the possibility of Bigfoot being an interdimensional being, that kind of stuff too, right? Uh, so it's always a possibility in my mind that as much as humans claim to know a lot about science, physics, and the world and the universe at large, I have a feeling that we haven't even scratched the surface. To be honest
No.
with you,
Hmm.
and what bothers me more with a lot of these scientists who and I'm not going to say all of them are like that, but a lot of them are kind of cocky about it, where they say, "Well, this is it. It's nothing
Hmm.
else." You know what I mean? The paranormal doesn't exist. Like the paranormal would conform to your wishes. You're not
Yeah.
doing a study on inanimate objects here, like you're doing for the most part when it comes to the universe, and you're trying to calculate certain things with planets and what have you. That those are inanimate objects. You're talking about something that's potentially sentient, whether it's our spirit that leaves our body and goes on, or if it's something completely different that's
Hmm.
a different sort of entity altogether. They're not going to conform to your wishes. You know what I mean? And this is what bothers me most about that, is that you have these people who just outright deny it because the science doesn't prove it. Well, I go, well, hey, you know what? 100 years ago, there's a lot of things that weren't proved that you were proved now. So what does
Hmm.
that tell you, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, you can always look back to something as simple as germs.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
we had no idea what germs were 100 years ago, and look at it now, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anything's possible, and I think that's a great sort of scenario with your story. I mean, parallel universes, as Alex mentioned. Uh, we've, six ways to Sunday in terms of trying to figure out, so many different scenarios. And I mean, it wasn't what that long ago that scientists basically opened up and finally said that we're not actually living in a universe, but it's actually a multiverse. With
Mm.
the components there, it's just a matter of trying to understand it, and we have no idea. Like Alex mentioned as well, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. It's just
Mm.
incredible. So I mean, stories such as yours, things that have happened and that people can't explain. It's just that's a part of the process. Let me ask you, what has been, I guess, the most unusual story or um, experience that's come across your desk that you keep going back to and saying, "Wow, like I had no idea."
Easily the most, and every time, and I know this is true because every time somebody asks me this, which is
Yeah,
often,
yeah,
the same story pops into my head. And if you, I can't, I honestly, it would take me like a half an hour to retell that story
yeah.
here. But if you go on either on YouTube or on the podcast, uh, you look up the Alpha Class Cryptid story that I got from a guy named Lou. Alpha Class Cryptid. That's my designation. I just called it an Alpha Class Cryptid because he described this situation where he encountered these two bizarre humanoid creatures that appeared to have abilities that were beyond any anything we could possibly imagine. And somehow he was able to sense this interaction between these two creatures and a homeless man in an alleyway as he was taking a shortcut going from I believe he's going from Manhattan to Queens or something like that in New York. Leaving his job on Wall Street, heading home, couldn't go through the park because there was an Occupy protest going on there and they were blocking everything off. So he's trying to get to the subway, cut through an alleyway, and is literally almost like frozen in time, like paralyzed temporarily as he's trying to walk through this alleyway. And he's privy to this interaction that everyone else around him seems to just kind of be walking by oblivious. But these two creatures in uh, suits with large brimmed hats, with ashen white skin, and extremely guttural and bizarre voices, kind of offering this deal to this homeless man in exchange for possibly his skin at a
Hmm.
later time. It was really, and that's a
Huh.
that's a distillation of the story.
I
Wow.
heard that. I would
And
listen to that one.
yeah, and I on the podcast and on YouTube, I have the story, like my rendition of it, where I do the voice acting and I do the voice acting of the monsters and all that. And
Yeah.
then I actually have an interview with him. I actually, a couple of years after I got the story, I was able to wrangle him for about an hour long or hour and a half long interview over Skype. And he and I just kind of talk about it, and I press him on a couple of things to ask him, get a little bit more information, and kind of also to see if he was BSing me the whole time,
Yeah.
which it doesn't seem like he was.
Uh-huh.
He seemed like he was being pretty frank about it. And it's just one of those things where, I have stories that I tell my own family and they look at me like I'm crazy. And so
Yeah.
you can only you can only say, hey, that's the story. That to me, that's what happened. That's reality. And that's all I can tell you. I don't know what else to tell you, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's funny because these experiences. I mean, I've had several experiences, and they've never been, one's paranormal, if you will, and another is, UFO based
Mm.
and cryptid based experience, and I sit there and go, people around me must think I'm crazy, you know, with coming up with these stories, but they're not stories; they're actual experiences, something that I experienced, and it's how do you look at a person like and say, look at, are you okay?
Mm.
Why are these elements sort of attracted to you? And I mean, what is it? What is it with certain people who have multiple experiences where some have none, most have
Yeah,
none? You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
mean,
And
it's
very few people have just one experience.
yeah,
You're absolutely right. It's either you've never come anywhere near something like that, something out of the ordinary that would baffle your mind,
yeah.
or you've had several of them. There's no in
Now,
between that as far as I've seen. Well,
ex-
it's rare.
exactly. Now, is there an area that you're really interested in that you find yourself constantly diving into within the paranormal, if you will?
I think the thing that's the closest to me, honestly, is this multiverse
Hmm.
theory,
Okay.
because I'm constantly, I mean, it's because of my dreams. And I've had so many dreams that seem to suggest that I am seeing other places when I'm dreaming. Not every time, but sometimes I see things that are so close to reality yet different, or like, just last night I dreamt that, my mother passed from cancer recently,
Hmm.
and I had a dream that of what would have been if she just didn't, if she
Yeah.
recovered.
Okay.
And everything was so in place and the way it would have been, and had that happened. And I don't know, and that's just one tiny vague example. But I mean, I've had dreams where I was almost explicitly told that I'm almost like I'm jumping from one body to another, as particularly when I'm about to die,
Hmm.
because of some
Yeah.
experiences that I've had, like where physically I was in danger of dying,
Yeah.
and where people were literally coming after me because of that, because of my ability to do this. And that I would have to, I don't know if you've heard that story before, because I think I've mentioned it a couple times on YouTube, but that's an interesting one on this topic. If you want to hear about it, I'd be happy to tell quickly.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I know this dream I've had, like I said, I've been having crazy dreams my whole life, like
Mm.
interesting storied dreams of worlds that are like lived in worlds that have history.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, I see a unicorn riding a unicycle.
Yeah.
Now that would be cool, but it's the unicorn would actually have a backstory, and I would know who he is and why he's on the unicycle. That's
Yeah.
the way my dreams work. So I had this dream where I started out sitting at a table in front of what looked like a old rundown, like picture a saloon from a Wild West movie.
Okay.
And I used to be in the military. A friend of mine, an old friend, I haven't seen in over 10 years from the military, shows up in front of this building. And I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He calls me by my name and he's saying, hey, I've been looking for you, man. How you been? I'm like, I'm been pretty good, man. It's good to see you. I wasn't expecting to see you here. So then he walks up to me and hands me a bag, a plastic bag. And I'm looking through the bag and there's a bunch of name tags, like my military name tag, my police name tag, and a couple other things that I've worn on my uniforms throughout the years.
Hmm.
And some of them are broken in half, some of them are burned, some of them, my one of my uniform parts and pieces in the military is singed, like to the point where half of it is almost burned off. And as I'm looking at this, he says, "Hey, what do you think about these? What do you make of this stuff?" And I kind of knew what he was trying to say to me, and it's that each of those things was on my body at some point where I could have died. And he says, "All right, get up, come with me. I got to show you something. Just follow me." And I got the sense at that point that this is not my friend. This is not the person who it looks like it is. So I follow him into these busted up wooden dusty saloon doors, and when we go in there, it looks like we've stepped into a mansion. Marble floors and fancy mahogany everywhere and staircases and stuff like that. And he stands there for a second, and these people start coming out of the doors in these hallways and coming out from all different directions. And more people start coming out and saying, "Hey, we're taking him back to our sector. He's mine. I'm taking him in." And then another guy will come out of a door and say, "Hey, no, 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 we want him. We want him." And as more and more people come out into this corridor where we're standing, I start realizing that some of these people are the same person, but just dressed differently. Same face, same hair color, everything, but they just have different clothing on. And they're all vying to take me in like they're trying to arrest me or something. And they're getting really fierce about and adamant about who's going to take me in. And I'm this pandemonium going on. I sit down on this bench, and a woman is sitting across from me who looks in her eyes. I can see this almost like grief, like pity. She's looking at me and she says, "Hey, sometimes when things get a little too crazy for me, I just close my eyes and think about somewhere else, being somewhere else." And I just knew that she was telling me this because that's what she thinks I should do to get away from this situation. And I calmed myself down. I closed my eyes and I thought of being elsewhere. And then I woke up in my bed.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, no,
You know what yeah. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, no.
I just wanted to point out that it's amazing how your attention to detail is incredible. When you're relaying this and what you see, and as you mentioned earlier, how things are so vivid in these experiences, nightmares and whatnot. But your attention to detail is incredible.
Mm, thank you. I come from a line of storytellers. I'm sure we've been doing that for a long time. It's kind of in my blood, I
If you
guess.
started having these dreams from a very young age, I would take it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Oh well. Yeah. At least my early teens.
Because I'm one of those people that barely remembers their dreams. Um,
Mhm.
but the ones I do remember generally tend to be really messed up for my
Mm.
taste. You know what I mean? I had this one dream once where I was in this dried up riverbed, and I'm looking around, I'm like, what the hell is this? And then all of a sudden, the water just sort of like the floodgates sort of opened, and the water just started flooding. And I was in my car, mind you, in this dried up riverbed. I
Mm.
forgot to mention that. And I got washed up, God knows where, in the middle of a forest, and I could hear this sort of tribal drum beat in the background, and someone had come to me, and this happened years ago, so I don't remember every single detail, but uh, nevertheless, I came across somebody, and the one thing I kept noticing is that I kept getting bitten by mosquitoes, and he gave me something to sort of ward them off, and he said, "Come with me, follow me." So he was basically taking me to wherever this drumming was. And we're walking, and the last thing I remember before I woke up is tripping over this log. But instead of falling onto the ground, I started floating. And I could feel the sensation of floating, and then I don't know where I just sort of woke up from there. I was like, that's messed
Mhm.
up. You know what I mean? That's like I going from someone like I said who very rarely remembers their dreams to that is messed up. You
Well,
know,
that must have been a unique sensation
it,
to you. Do you remember the
I
feeling?
do, but I have one that's even better because when my family decided to emigrate to Canada from Italy, because I was born in Italy, I was 8 years old when we decided to do this, or they decided to do this. I had no say in the matter, and I was terrified of flying. I had never flown, so as an 8-year-old, we go to the airport and we're about to board the 747, which is the jumbo jet, and I'm like, I'm almost literally shitting my pants, and my dad managed to calm me down and what have you. And it was maybe about a couple of years after uh, we when we emigrated, we had no plans on going anywhere. So because I know a lot of people go the route of saying, well, if you knew you were going to be flying again, it's just your subconscious preparing you for it and all that. There was no plans on going anywhere that I knew of. 2 years after the fact, I had this very extreme, vivid dream where I'm at the bottom of a hill, a grassy hill, playing by myself. And at the top of the hill was the house that in the dream was my house, even though where we lived at the time looked nothing like that. And my mom called me saying, "Come home, it's time to eat." So I'm running up up the hill, and as I'm going beside the house, and mind you, right after the house, and then after that there's a big cliff straight down. So I'm running towards the house. Right beside it, I trip over a protruding rock, and again I fall. And instead of hitting the ground, once again I float. And I'm floating towards this cliff, and I know there's a cliff there. And I'm trying to stop myself by grabbing whatever I can possibly grab, and I can't. And then I just sort of go over the cliff. And I'm sure you've been on a roller coaster before.
Hmm.
That feeling over the first big drop, that's what I felt. I felt that sort of gut sort of coming into my throat, going down, and I at this point I thought I was going to die because I'm like, okay, I'm going down and I'm going to hit the ground and I'm going to splat. But as I was getting closer to the ground, I started to level off and sort of fly, and I felt the sensation of flying, and it was fantastic, and it got me over the fear of flying, because after that dream, I looked forward to the next time where I would get on an airplane, right?
Hmm.
So that's it. It's one of those. It was probably the only time that I can remember where I've had such a vivid dream where I felt the sensation of flying. And that's where when I was listening to some of your podcasts and talking about how some of the experiences you've had and other people have had who have shared them with you, it made me wonder, okay, is it, and I always kind of meant that, was leaning towards that. Was it an out of body experience, which is one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Have you ever experienced a out of body experience? And if so, did you experience any sort of something similar to that, like floating around or feeling the sensation of flying?
I've experienced almost every sensation one could experience in a dream,
Hmm.
or like in dreams. I've flown, I've created, I've created human beings in my dreams.
Hmm.
I've changed reality and warped things around. I had a dream when I was younger, when I was in my teens, that my mother passed away then.
Hmm.
And I was so unwilling to accept that as reality that I changed the entire world around me to the point where I was no longer even the same person.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was with my brother, my best friend, the same one that I called about the my dad being shot.
Mhm.
I was with them in the dream, and I found out that my mother passed, and I changed things to the point where it was like the whole world is now Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon instead.
Yeah.
I don't want I don't want I want my mom to live so badly that I will turn myself into an Asian man,
Yeah.
even though I'm black. And I did, and my brother and my best friend, I also transformed them into different people.
Hmm.
And we were kind of the same people, but like, hey, we're in another world and we can fly now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've transformed into a wolf to save my brother's life in another dream, and mauled someone. It's I've flown. many times.
Yeah.
But that's like, I've been killed by a vampire. I've been, um, I've died in a nuclear explosion.
Hmm.
I've
Don't tell me that
become a
vampire looked
ghost.
like
Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
No, no, the vampire was actually a beautiful woman,
Oh, that's
Oh.
definitely not
and it
me.
was, yeah, that's the opposite of,
Yeah.
not. I mean, I'm not saying anything about you,
That
Alex.
that's
I
okay.
mean,
That's okay. No offense
you know,
taken. Don't worry.
yeah.
So,
She was beautiful enough to where I said, all right, if you're going to kill me, please kiss me first, and then you can kill me.
Yeah.
And she did. It was very nice of her. And then I later became a ghost and was, feeling. I felt that happen. I was basically, her bite poisoned me to the point where I was paralyzed, and my family was trying to take care of me, and I died while they stepped out of the room. I died and turned into a ghost, and then I was watching them discover my dead body.
Wow. Yeah.
It's that's the way my dreams work. It's really strange.
I envy you, man. I wish I could dream like that, or at least remember my
uh,
dreams. Anyway.
we
Yeah.
we've got a question.
All right. Go ahead.
Mars would like to know, have you have you been on other planets in the solar system?
In dreams, or
Yeah,
are they referring to like astral projection or
uh,
something like that?
probably astral projecting.
I don't think so. In my dreams, I'm pretty sure that, well, I would guess that most of the dreams that I see are just different versions of Earth. I mean, I've seen some very fantastical things in my dreams, but it kind of makes my mind go towards this astral projection idea. And I don't know if you might not have that much experience with crazy dreams, but have you ever been in a state like, for example, where you're halfway between sleeping and being awake?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
several
Like you
times.
take Ambien or something, and you miss your window where you're supposed to fall asleep, and it just makes you loopy.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
during times like that. And I would never suggest that anyone purposefully enter this mental state, because you never know what's going to happen to you. I've never entered it on purpose. I've never taken any illicit drugs or purposefully abused any kind of sleep aids or anything like that. But there have been times in my life where I was so exhausted that I began to kind of hallucinate.
Mm,
And when when I'm hallucinating something, I usually have the presence of mind to what seems like create the hallucination, like will myself to hallucinate a particular thing or event. And during those times, it's like a strange twilight moment of the mind. And next time this happens to me, I'm going to try to visit another planet. But this is while I'm awake. I mean, the last time that this happened and the most significant that I can think of, I was laying down in bed and I was almost passing out, but for some reason I was not. I wasn't sleeping yet. And I was feeling myself entering into this weird in-between state. And I looked out at my bedroom wall and I reached out my hand and willed myself to open what looked like a portal.
uh-huh.
And this portal was almost like a drone's view of the city of London.
Well,
I don't know why that came to mind, or I might have just watched Peter Pan or something recently before that, but I created a window into another place in front of me, and I was kind of able to navigate it. And I navigated up to like an apartment window, and I saw someone walking around in an apartment. Nothing particularly interesting, but that was the last thing that happened before I actually fell asleep.
huh.
So now, next time that happens to me, which is pretty rare, thankfully, because I get great sleep. I get lots of sleep now. if that happens again, I'm going to try to go to Mars or something cool like that.
That'd be, that'd
Yeah.
be
Try to
interesting.
find the rover
Uh,
up
Yeah.
there.
yeah. So how have you how is this? I don't want to necessarily call it an ability, but these experiences through your nightmares and whatnot. How have they shaped your real life? Like how have they impacted how you live on a day-to-day basis? Growing up, adult, you know, have they played an important part of how you are?
I would say so because, and that's a great question. I've never
Yeah.
really been asked that before. I would have to say that's the first time I've ever been asked that question. I would have to say that it's it's really kind of given me an appreciation for normal everyday life.
Hmm.
One that I probably would have had to a slightly lesser extent because I know, like, hey, whatever's happening right now, at least I'm not standing underneath an airborne nuclear weapon that's detonating right in front of my eyes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
at least I'm not being pursued by, you know, a 40-foot long deadly snake with human arms or something. Like it could be worse.
Yeah.
Like, and I try to enjoy my life. I try to do the best I can and help people and things like that. And hence the line of work I'm in and the channel that I do, even though I haven't really been very active lately. It's just, I'm sure you can understand that there's a lot of other things for me to do professionally that I
Yeah.
have to deal with now, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
be one of the good guys,
Yeah.
and that's been really taking up a lot of my uh, mental energy, you know. But
Well, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's just it would yeah, how things are is just absolutely crazy right now. With everything that's going on, it just seems that 2020 has been on the books probably one of the most I don't know what's the perfect word that we can
Shitty.
use here for well no I don't want to say shitty no because I mean even though situations, but I mean eye-opening and well, COVID for crying out loud has kind of
yeah,
put a damper on a
Yeah.
lot of things. But I mean, it also I think really makes you think about it could be worse. Thankfully, I'm not under that nuclear bomb, as you put it, Mr. X.
mm,
I mean, as bad as the situation can be, it can always be worse, right?
yeah,
So
And you know what?
and it's always worse for
Yeah,
someone.
exactly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's always been talk lately, not past couple of years. There's been talk about we're on the cusp of sort of an awakening of some sort, and
yeah,
it's almost like that old adage where you have to hit rock bottom before you can pick yourself up and just sort of elevate yourself even further. And I think we're getting there. If not there already, we're getting there to the point where now we've almost hit rock bottom. Not quite, because things could be far worse than they are.
yeah,
But
oh yeah,
if you take into perspective the kind of lifestyle we lead in a first world nation, as opposed to someone who unfortunately has to live in a third world nation who doesn't have nearly as many
Hmm.
advantages as we do in this kind of lifestyle, good and bad all aside, I mean, uh,
Yeah,
we could be far worse than where we currently are. However, for where we live, this could be sort of our rock bottom where we hopefully finally wake up and realize, hey, what the hell are we doing? Why are we doing this
yeah,
to each other? What We can be so much better than this. We can be so more, caring about one another. It's irrelevant
hmm,
where you're from, what color your skin is, what your sex is, what your sexual orientation is. It really is irrelevant at the end of the day. And we're all people, and we need to be up here instead of being all the way down here.
The potential that we have as humans is it's it boggles the mind to really try to encapsulate it and think
Mm.
about what we could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
unfortunately, we're nowhere near maxing out that potential right now.
No.
No.
We can only hope that in time, and I've been saying this for a long time. All we need is aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ronald Reagan said it a long time ago, and people say this. Yeah, there's some conspiracy theories and all this false flag stuff. That's a whole other podcast right
Yeah.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But imagine, if you will, an unstoppable or a seemingly unstoppable force descends upon humanity to the point where people see we are actually all human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care what differences we have.
Yeah.
It's not as different as those guys up there are,
Yeah.
and they're the ones who are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would probably give us about 100 years of peace between the races and the cultures of this world until people forget and they start saying, you know what, you are a little darker than I am,
Well,
so,
that's
Yeah.
part of
or
the
you are a little paler than I
that's part of
am.
the problem. People have short-term memories, selective short-term memories.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad in a way, right? Because I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't get why it has to be this way. When
Yeah.
realistically speaking, we are. I mean, you take away a person's skin color, you take away their skin. Period. You're not going to be able to tell where they're from.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
You know what I mean?
We're all the
Oh,
same.
exactly.
And when the aliens come and remove all of our skins,
Yeah, exactly.
then, we'll be
Yeah.
good.
We'll be in a lot of pain, but we'll be good.
A lot of pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we got a few more minutes here. You know, get all your information out there for the listeners and the viewers and all that for who would love to check out your podcast and your YouTube channel and so on and so on.
Well, sure. I appreciate it. Mr. X Dreams podcast. It's kind of just a side project where I upload the audio rips from most of my shows and things like that, compilations. You can find that almost anywhere. It's on iTunes, Spotify. Don't think it's on Stitcher, on Anchor, Google Podcasts. You can check that out. And if you don't need to see the video portion of it, but I've got a whole bunch of videos, probably 150 or more videos on YouTube under Mr. X Dreams, and that's from the past like 5 years. There's a lot more content on there if that's what you're into. Haven't been uploading too often lately because things have been pretty crazy, but yeah, I'd sure appreciate anybody coming by and checking that out.
For sure, and everybody should, because he
Yeah,
has some great
I'm on
content.
Twitter and Instagram as well.
Yeah, he's got great content. Go check him out. If you don't, I'll come after you.
Yeah. Here comes the vampire. uh, um, is there a topic within the paranormal or nightmares or whatever that you haven't tackled yet that you'd like to tackle?
Hmm. Not that I'm aware of. I think I've touched on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Unless if there's something new, I've never really talked about the Goat Man. That's the only thing I can think
Yeah,
of.
the goat man. Yeah.
Because there's that one story about it that I think the Goat Man and the Mothman I have not really spoken about, but things that I never even heard of until the person said, "Hey, you ever heard of the Mogollon monster or the some kind of Japanese Bigfoot type creature?" And
Are
every once in a while somebody hits me up with something that I have to actually research because I never heard of it.
speaking of the Japanese, have you ever dove into the yokai monsters?
I've heard of that, and
Oh,
that's also something I've not spoken about, I don't think.
very interesting cinema if you're a film buff too. It's the Japanese have always been notorious for their yokai system, if you will, and how they have pretty much a monster for every element that they believe uh, is what they call yokai, and it's very interesting. Very interesting.
Mm.
Something that might be down your alley, if you will. How about have you been able to tackle the skunk ape?
I do have a
Yeah.
video somewhere about sort of skunk ape
Yeah.
relative,
Oh, okay.
cousin maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's down in, because I live in Florida,
Yeah.
and I believe that's part of uh, the menagerie that's said to be lurking around down here.
I wonder how it's making out with all the what is it, the snake invasion you have down there.
Snake invasion. I
Yeah,
didn't
what
know
is it?
about that.
Well, isn't there a lot more what is it? I'm thinking not boas, but oh, what are they
Not the
called now?
anacondas, are
Those
they?
no,
Yeah.
no, not anacondas. Those huge snakes that
Pythons.
maybe no, not pythons, but apparently they're their numbers are increasing and putting even a hamper on a lot of the local wildlife and even uh, alligators as well, right?
Oh, wow. I didn't
Yeah,
know about that.
yeah,
Well, hopefully they know about our social distancing
Yeah.
guidelines, and the skunk
yeah,
ape will be
exactly,
okay.
exactly. Uh, I want to thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it. Very interesting, and keep up the great work. It's I will for one be diving more into the podcast and your YouTube channel for some more stories to hear and watch and stuff like that. Really good job.
Absolutely, guys. Hey, man, this was a lot of fun. I like you guys, and I appreciate you reaching out to me, and I'm down to do this again sometime in the future
For sure.
whenever we all
Yeah.
have time.
Absolutely,
Here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If we have a show that we're going to do, because we tended to do what's called dark discussions, and basically we tackle things, and it's in the raw. There's no guidelines, and we usually
Mm,
have a round table, and maybe perhaps you might be interested in that.
definitely, definitely. Let me know, and yeah, if I can squeeze some time out of my schedule, I'll definitely participate. Sounds like
Absolutely.
a lot of fun. You guys are
Y-
good dudes.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, and that voice, man.
Well, thank you very much.
Don't worry, that's not
uh,
Steve trying to hit on you, by the way. Don't worry about that.
no, no.
That's
It's
all right. Hey,
like I said.
I'm very you know, I don't judge. It's okay.
All right. Take care, Mr. X.
You guys
Take
take care.
care.
Nice meeting
Have
you.
a good night.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Have a good one.
Later.
Bye.
You hung up
Did
on me. You did lose
I
me.
lose you? I hung up on you. I hit the wrong button. Anyways, we're back. We're gonna
Yeah.
take a short break here, halfway break, um, and get all the necessary info when we come back. Yeah, I want to thank Mr. X for coming on. Great, like you said, the stories and everything else. Really good podcast, and YouTube channel. Obviously, it started off. And you said what, 4 or 5
Yeah,
years
more
you've
or
been
less. I mean,
following?
he's I don't remember the exact date, but I mean, I've been following him for quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
roughly. Yeah,
he's been on YouTube for quite a while now.
yeah, awesome. All right, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll more of this and
Yeah.
more. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live, not exclusively on New Visions Radio Network and our YouTube channel. We'll be right back.
It hides nestled among the century-old weeping willows, watching in its lonely state, waiting to share its story. The tragedy soaked within its hollow walls. Before this ancient and abandoned farmhouse is lost forever. Listen carefully as you walk down that old dark road to find what secrets it harbours.
You are listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve Jenny and his satanic assistant, Alex Rondini, both of whom can't go into churches without vomiting.
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens due to the crisis that is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments. At this hour, we repeat, these are the facts as we know them. There is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. The murders are taking place in villages and cities and rural homes and suburbs with no apparent pattern nor reason for the slayings. It seems to be a sudden general explosion of mass homicide.
The devil showed him all the kingdoms of the world and said, "All this I will give you, if you will bow down and worship me."
There was no pearly gate. The only reason I knew I was in a cave was because I had just passed the entrance. The rock wall rose behind me with no ceiling in sight. I knew this was it. This was what religion talked about, what man feared. I had just entered the gate to hell. I felt the presence of the cave as if it was a living, breathing creature. The stench of rotten flesh overwhelmed me. Then there was the voice. It came from inside and all around. "Welcome." "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "You know," the thing answered. I did know. "You are the devil," I stuttered, quickly losing my composure. "Why me? I've lived as good as I could." The silence took over the space as my words died out. It seemed like an hour went by before the response came. "What did you expect?" The voice was penetrating, but patient. "I don't know. I never believed any of this," I uttered. "Is that why I am here?" Silence. I continued. "They say the greatest trick you ever pulled was convincing the world you don't exist." "No, the greatest trick I ever pulled was convincing the world that there is an alternative." "There is no God?" I shivered. The cave trembled with the words. "I am God."
find that you've arrived in Frightenstein. Perhaps the Count will find a way to make his monster work today. For if he solves this monster mania, he can return to Transylvania. So welcome where the sun won't shine, to the castle of Count Frightenstein.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be around this wild, wacky, and sometimes disturbing world of ours. Yes, that's the intro to the Mindset Podcast, a weekly attempt to open eyes and shedding light on what's really going on in the world, all done by ripping apart the media madness that masquerades as news. Join me, Gareth Davis, every Sunday on the Mindset Podcast. You can find the show on all major podcasting services such as iTunes, Stitcher, and so on. Or you can go directly to the main Mindset website. That's www.mindsetcentral.com. Check out the Mindset Podcast. Bring your curiosity, your opinions, and a sense of humor. And remember that some worldviews are stranger than others.
This is Keith Age, and you're listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Enjoy.
Are we live? We're live.
We're live.
Yeah, hold on a sec. And welcome back to Nocturnal Frequency Radio here on the New Visions Radio Network. And of course, simulcasting on our YouTube channel. Live from the Nocturnal Studios in Toronto and Milan.
Milan? The fuck? I wish.
Yeah. If you'd like to follow us, you can do so on Twitter at Dark Discussions, Facebook, facebook.com/Nocturnal Frequency Radio, or just type in Nocturnal Frequency Radio in the search box. I mean, does Facebook still have that?
Fucking sweating over here. Jesus Christ.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Whatever your question was, yes. I was too preoccupied with my sweat.
And Instagram.
Instagram.
Nocturnal Frequency.
You'll see the
Radio.
banner going up there. It'll give us the Instagram and Twitter handles.
And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes. Please.
Please.
And like.
Subscribe. Yeah. So because I haven't really had a chance to put up some of the old archives. I gotta get back into that and get some old archives up there on the YouTube channel for you guys to listen to, because I know a few of you have been looking forward to some new, well, not really new material, but stuff you haven't heard. So we'll dive in and grab some and throw some up. Hopefully, sometime this week, I'll have a chance to throw a couple up there for you guys. And we're about to embark on shooting Nocturnal Night Shots 3. Finally.
3.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's only taking, God, I mean, I don't know.
Been years.
What number 2 was what?
Let me put it to you this way. See how it's white here? It wasn't at the time when we filmed the last one.
Yeah, welcome to the club. Welcome to the club.
Oh, Casual just joined us. I don't know if you were here for the first hour, Casual. Mr. X was on for the first hour. You missed it if you weren't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll have him back on. I mean, that was very interesting. Super cool guy with, like I said, the perfect voice to relay these stories, man. Perfect. So yeah. Anyways, we're going to shoot Nocturnal Night Shots 3.
Yeah.
Episode 3.
Yeah.
And after we shoot it, we'll probably have a special here on the YouTube channel.
Most definitely.
We'll probably sit down and talk about it. Let you know what to expect, kind of, but not everything.
So I guess we can't really tell them any hints. Should we?
Well, I mean, we can, I guess, but you don't want to give away too much.
What can we tell them when we're doing it?
We're shooting this Friday. Night.
We're gonna be going out and shooting Nocturnal Night Shots 3.
Yes.
Sorry, let me do it this way.
And I'm actually pretty excited because we're gonna have some pretty. I think we're gonna have some pretty cool footage.
Yeah.
And some good angled shots. Something a little different.
Definitely different, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll work out pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll be doing that Friday night. Hopefully we have more than enough footage in the can so I can completely edit it and have it prepared in a couple weeks. Anyways, hopefully before Halloween. Yeah, I'm sure it probably will be, but you never know with these things.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
You know, you need time to edit, and editing can be very tedious. You don't like something. I don't know. I'm finicky when I edit. You know, I'll watch something when I'm done and go, no, I pick it apart and go, okay. It's like when you're writing a book, right?
Sure.
You know, when you're writing a book and your editor goes, well, you know, there's something wrong with this doesn't jive. You're gonna have to fix it.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. Well, I'm sure we'll get it done though.
That's okay. Casual just said she thought it was 9 p.m. Pacific time. But don't worry. Once we end the stream, it'll go back and you can just catch the first hour. That's yeah. And you know, if all goes well, we'll have him back on. I mean, he seems to be interested in coming back on, so we might very well have him back on.
Yeah, I would look forward to. I would look forward to that. I would be very interested in having him back on the show. And again, maybe, like we said, perhaps a part of one of our upcoming dark discussions.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that'll be a whole new perspective injected into it. So instead of, you know, the usual characters that we tend to have on for, well, they seem to be. I don't know if we can technically call what we've had dark discussions during this COVID period.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been more or less just casual conversations about certain things. When we have our friends Gareth and Justin on,
yeah,
and Dr. Demon Gord,
yeah, Dr. Demon
Gord, who will be helping us with Nocturnal Night Shots 3 as well, and he's probably going, I don't know what they want me to do.
Well, he's gonna be our stunt double. So
Yeah.
he's gonna be doing all the heavy stunt work. You know, we're basically gonna throw him around like a rag doll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll get a one of those makeshift dog toys that looks like Gord.
Yeah. I was gonna
And
say, I thought you were gonna say we're gonna
we'll
bring in a
do
catapult.
no, we'll do extreme close-ups to make him look big,
Yeah.
like life size. Look what they're doing to Gord. What are they doing? Oh my
Kind of
God.
like Frankie when you
The
get close to the
best.
camera.
What?
Kind of like Frankie when you bring him close to the camera.
Yeah. Oh my God, look, he's popping his zit.
Yeah.
uh, so anyways, we were last Wednesday evening, we were on the Outer Realm
Yes.
with Michelle and Amelia. That was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it was.
That was pretty cool. And we're gonna have them on the show. They're gonna be coming on the show. I think what did we say? October 11th.
I believe so. Yeah.
And we're working on a few other guests. Somebody else I don't want to say until we've got it pretty much
In the books.
in the books as a schedule. And I'm working on another guest that's been on the show before. Sort of somebody who inspired me to do paranormal radio, if you will. And that's Scott L of Ghostly Talk,
Hmm.
the famed Ghostly Talk,
Yeah.
which was one of the very first uh, grassroots, if you will, podcast. They started podcasting, I think it was 2002, and I started listening to them in 2005. And in fact, a lot of the guests that we've had on the show um, have ended up on this show over the years, which has been pretty cool. And Scott himself's been on the show in the past. So looking forward to possibly getting him back on here. So and again, Tim Shaw as well, who is on the show. And I said I wasn't going to say this, but anyways, we're just it's just a matter of scheduling, getting the schedule down, and whatever works. And Tim will be back on the show, so that'll be pretty cool. Tim's always an interesting character.
Since it's coming close to Halloween, let me add ambiance to this stream. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That was very ambient.
It's very ambient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you tried that new pumpkin spice burrito yet?
No, I have not. Jesus Christ. I dread to think what it would taste like.
Pumpkin spice.
Yeah.
It depends on what you like in your burrito, right?
Definitely not pumpkins.
No, that would be on top of the pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pumpkin would be on top of what you like in the burrito.
I'll pass.
Yeah. So okay, let's going back to Mr. X, who again was on in the first hour. I want to thank him again. Well, we would like to thank him again. Out of what you've listened to, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, that the story he related about the individual who went to the laneway and saw those two cryptids.
Okay.
That was actually very, and you know what? I listened to that actually not that long ago, to be honest with you, because I remember years ago, I had sort of left a message on his YouTube channel to ask him whether he was actually planning on ever turning his show into a podcast, and
Yeah.
he only did it recently, but I had asked him this question years ago as well, and I asked him again not too long ago. So the problem with YouTube is that with the current job I have, I don't have the ability to basically listen to a lot of YouTube like I did in the past in my previous job. So this is why I was kind of hoping that he would eventually go on podcast, because then I could just download it and listen to it on my phone, and he did. recently, obviously. Well, relatively recently. And so I was actually barbecuing one day, and that's when I was listening to the story, and it was a pretty intense kind of story, and I liked it quite a bit. A lot of his stories are really good.
Yeah.
You know yourself, the ones you've heard, right?
Hmm.
But that one really stuck out. If you ever get a chance to listen to that one, listen to it. If if you get that opportunity, I'm sure you will at some point. But it's a pretty intriguing story.
Yeah, I mean, now I have him in my podcast selection there, and you know, uploaded or downloaded whatever some of his past shows. Um, I've listened to a couple, and already I'm like, wow, okay, so this is pretty cool. I really like the fact that he receives letters from people who have experiences and stuff like that, and obviously getting consent to sort of relay them on his show,
Hmm.
and the way he how he mentioned how he breaks it down and words it to his liking, and bang, it just very, very well presented, man.
Hmm.
You know very well
Yeah,
presented.
he's definitely got a talent. Like he's got a talent for storytelling.
Yeah.
It's how not only how he scripts it, and when I say script, I don't mean he makes the stuff up. He relates what people tell him, but he puts it in a way, he writes it in a way rather, that is more presentable, because like he said, and it is true, not everybody's a writer. So when people relate stories to people, especially via email, it sometimes comes out, for lack of a better term, as gibberish, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to, and you can't just narrate something like that untouched and get that message across. So he takes the time to basically read what the sender sent him and analyze it, and sort of puts it in a format that's hard hitting, for lack of a better term, and really
Yeah.
relatable to whoever's listening. And
Mhm.
which is important, because otherwise it just would not make any sense for the most part, you know. And he has a gift for that. He can do it really well, aside from the fact that he also narrates very well and he's got the voice for it. That
Yeah.
all adds to the whole ambiance that he's trying to portray from the experience of the individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. Like I said, I'll probably most likely dive into more, and when I get a chance to listen to them, I definitely will. Um, I mean, in terms of the YouTube channel, I do from time to time. I'm not a big. I don't watch a lot on YouTube. I mean, I do, but I don't really watch a lot of podcast, if you will, like channels, just here and there. So I don't really get a chance either to watch this stuff, but from time to time I'll throw something on, and like I did watch one episode, the one that I listened to the audio version to. I figured, and I'll check the video version, like the actual version of it,
Yeah,
and it's really cool. I like what he does. It's really interesting and intriguing, and yeah, yeah, I'd love to have him back on the show.
for sure.
Yeah, so that's cool. So, are you ready for Halloween yet? Like, I mean, it's a month away,
It is. It is a month away.
and the trees, the leaves are already changing,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
It's it,
we went to Port Severn today.
yeah,
My wife and I went there. 'Cause she has an aunt that has a cottage up there.
yeah,
So we drove up to Port Severn, and it was a great drive. You see,
yeah,
once you hit past Barrie,
yeah,
and you're in that stretch of the 400 that it's tree lined on both sides, and you get to see all the different colors of the trees that are starting to come out. It was an awesome drive going up there, and yeah, I'm getting into that mood. Um,
mhm,
Obviously, because of COVID, it's gonna suck in the sense that you can't really do, or what I can't really do, what I normally do on a yearly basis, which is go to my friend's house in Toronto and sort of just do the haunted house. I really don't think that's gonna happen this year,
yeah,
for obvious reasons. But nevertheless, I'm gonna try to take advantage of it. Here's something funny. So last night, Lisa and I went to her cousin's house, which also lives in Bolton, in the town I'm at, and her cousin, not her cousin's husband, but her cousin herself, is actually interested in playing the Ouija board with me.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that at some point between now and Halloween, that I can convince her to do it. She says she's up for it, so we'll see. And I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The good old Ouija board.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that we've talked about possibly doing on the show too, a live Ouija board session.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
Unless we do a live on location when we're actually both there and we do it. But
yeah.
I don't want to start playing the Ouija board by myself and have it going ballistic. Then I'll start to get worried.
You'll start to get worried.
Yeah, I'll start to get worried at that point.
You've opened a porthole that you can't close.
I know Lisa refuses to let me play at the house, so.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Oh man, you gotta love the stigma they have.
Oh yeah.
Huh?
No, I know. I agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, tell me, what do you think the gist of it all? I know we've talked about it, but the gist of it, like, I mean, do you really believe, even intent-wise, that it's actually opening a portal or something?
I don't necessarily think it's opening up a portal per se. Not in the traditional sense. I think going back to to the belief that everybody has some sort of abilities, or everybody has latent, dormant abilities, so to speak.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've always viewed the Ouija board as a tool.
Yeah.
A tool to be able to help you access certain things that you never knew you had, because it's like the old, not the old adage, but it's like, what I can't stand is when people say that the Ouija board is evil itself. It's a mass-produced piece, and I keep harking back to this, and it's like, it's not like you have a witch or a warlock at the end of the assembly line cursing every individual board that comes off the processing plant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, it's just a tool that's used for you to focus your intent. And I believe what happens, and this is just my own personal belief, but I believe what happens is that when you have the intent to be able to communicate with someone that's passed on, or whomever it is you end up contacting, the board is just a tool to help you focus that intent. You know what I mean? And what's happening is that you're technically moving the planchette. You and whoever you're playing with are actually moving the planchette. And if you're playing with an individual that's sort of in sync with you, like when you've met my friend Frank, right? So whenever him and I used to play it, it seemed to work best when him and I played it. When I played it with other people, it wouldn't work as well. Same with him.
Yeah.
But when the two of us played together, it seemed to work really, really well. And it's I think it's because him and I were very in sync with one another, and we just sort of were able to kind of, I mean, I'll give you an example, and I'm sure I've stated this before on past shows, where him and I played the Ouija board at a friend's office, work office. He had his own business, he had an office, whatever. He was skeptical, as a lot of people are. And so I said, I suggested, let's play the Ouija board in your office. Let's go there after hours. We'll set it up on your table and we'll play it. And I gave him some more incentive to be able to want to do it. I go, listen, I know you're skeptical, and that's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. Let's add, increase the ante here. I will play it with Frank. You ask questions you only know the answer to. And to make it even better, at some point, Frank and I will close our eyes, avert our heads, and we'll just play it, and you ask the questions away. And if it answers correctly, then it's not us pushing it willfully. You know what I mean? We're doing it as sort of channels, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? So we did that. We went to his office. We first started off regularly. Frank and I just sort of like going off, and he was asking questions, and according to him, it was answering it correctly. I don't know if it was, because I don't know whether the answers were truthful or not. I don't know, right? But then I go, okay, let's do it. Let's kick it up a notch. Let's close our eyes, avert our heads, and you ask the questions away, and and apparently, again, it answered correctly, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you make of that? You know what I mean? I'm always willing to do these things to prove to myself, even if what it is, if it's actually something that could work, or if it's just subconscious, if it's our subconscious. Like if I'm playing with you, for example, and I'm asking a question, I know what I would like the answer to be. You know what I mean? So you could argue that I'm pushing it in that direction. However, if it's a third person that's asking a question that's a personal question that neither you or I know the answer to, and you add to the fact that we're closing our eyes and averting our heads from the board, and it's answering apparently correctly, then obviously that lends some credence to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's aspects of the Ouija board that you can equate to doing an EVP session, if you will.
Yep.
And using a recorder instead of the actual planchette and board, whatever, as the tool to sort of communicate with whatever you're communicating with, apparently, right?
Yeah.
It may be the dead, or different existence altogether, a dimension. Who knows? We don't know. I mean, that's the beauty of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty is we don't know, and will we ever know? Who knows? Probably not in our lifetime. Because I mean, honestly, let's be honest here. It's been a very slow ride.
Yeah.
In any advancements. I mean, yeah, you look at all the technology we have to work with now, and you sit there and go, well, is it really actually making us get any closer to understanding the paranormal? I don't know.
No.
To be honest, I don't think
I don't
so.
think so either. Yeah.
I think it's just an updated version of all these parlor tricks they had 100 years ago.
Yeah. No,
It's
I
just
agree.
a new version. That's all it is.
I agree.
You know?
We have a question
And
on YouTube, actually.
okay, go for it.
All the best. And I believe it's Ron. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the winner of the T-shirt. He's asking us.
Did you get that? You got that out to him, right?
Oh yeah. I did it the same day. I sent it out, or I ordered it the same day. He's asking, when does the Halloween season officially start for us?
I'd like to say it's always Halloween.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man. But I mean, I think it's when being here in the northeast of North America, if you will. I think it's that time of the year, that season, that when harvest plays a huge part, at least used to. Not so much now. I mean, it does play into this time of the year when things begin to die, and I mean, that's the way they looked at it traditionally. That's why they harvest things before it dies, and you have food, put food on your table to preserve, and all sorts of stuff. And when the long, cold winter begins shortly afterwards, you know, and when you think about it, a lot of people, when they think of winter, they get all depressed.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a very depressing time of the year, especially if you live up here. When it can get cold, when it can snow, and it can be just awful up here weather-wise. Um, these things play into why the fall seems to be the best time of the year. It's like, okay, let's put a stop to it and let it be the fall all the time.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love it.
Unfortunately, the changing of the leaves and all that stuff, just everything about the atmosphere of that time of the year is what sort of triggers Halloween for me, and that's technically, I guess, if you want, mid to late September.
Yeah.
When things start to cool down and the leaves start changing and you know uh, y- yeah, it gets cool. A lot of people enjoy the summer. I get it. And there are people that don't enjoy the summer. They prefer the fall or the winter. I don't know why people would prefer the winter, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that live for the winter. Not me.
My
Not
sister's
me.
one of those.
Yeah, I can't handle the winter. I just no. Give me Florida any day. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen anytime soon, right?
No, it's headed that way with global warming, right? I think where we live is going to be the new Florida in about 100 years from now.
Well, that's scary.
It is scary, but I'll be
That is
long dead
really
by then,
scary.
so I won't care.
Yeah, the reversing of uh, the axis shifting, maybe.
Oh, you're talking
Uh,
about the magnetic?
the Earth, yeah,
Yeah,
and causing everything to flip upside down.
yeah,
Imagine them having cold winters down in Florida and below.
yeah.
Huh?
Everybody will be coming up here for
Coming
snowbirds.
up here, yeah, this will become the snowbird central.
Yeah. But again, like I said, at that point I'll be long dead, so I won't care. Right.
So would you agree then, mid to late September?
I would agree with that. Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, you know very well that I read that same book every year, right? Um, and I usually start reading it about mid-September,
Yeah.
right? Just to try to get me into that mood, right? And so I would agree with that. But mid-September is when I start to get the itch, you know. And can't wait for Halloween to come out. Like I said, this year is gonna be different, but you know what? I'm gonna make the best of it. I'm gonna do whatever I think is necessary for myself in order to enjoy it.
Yeah, like I said, I've made sure that, I usually take a few weeks off this time of the year. And the last week of October is a must. I usually take that week off no matter what. So
Mm.
uh, and I usually spend the week in sessions getting the house all ready, like decorated. And that's not going to stop this year. I'm still going to do it if even if traditional Halloween has been called off or whatever. I still will.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, traditional Halloween has been canceled in the sense that not officially canceled yet, but I mean it's heading that way.
Well, yeah.
Where kids are not allowed. And you know what? As much fun as I have scaring the shit out of little kids,
Yeah.
because that's what we do with the haunted house. But
Yeah.
as much fun as that is, that's not what Halloween is for me.
No.
Right? So Halloween for me is the whole atmosphere,
Yep. Mhm.
the I know this is gonna sound morbid, but like the death aspect of it.
But that's what it is, right? I
Right,
mean, that's
exactly.
what the fall autumn is.
Yeah.
It's the dying of,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the environment around you, and not necessarily dying for good, but just seasonally dying
Yeah.
and eventually regenerating.
Right, and it's also the the believed thinning of the veil, or
Thinning of the veil,
right,
yeah.
and all of that stuff that goes with it. So all of that is not dependent on whether kids can come out trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
All of that is still at play, and it's what you do with it that counts, I guess, for lack of a better term. If you're if you're like Steve and I, who love Halloween for its otherworldly connotations, for lack of a better term, then whether Halloween quote unquote has been canceled, meaning kids aren't going to go out or aren't going to be able to go out trick or treating, is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right. If anything, because this year it looks like we're not going to be able to do the haunted house, it gives me the opportunity to actually go out and do what I want to do on Halloween night, which falls on a Saturday and also happens to be on a full moon this year.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I had to go and do the haunted house like we do on a normal basis. Right? So if anything, it's more advantageous for me in that sense, as opposed to, being cold and dreary, because most Halloweens have rained and been cold and we've gotten soaked and, whatever. But this year it's going to be different because chances are that's not going to happen. And I'm going to be able to get the chance to go do whatever I want to do.
Well, it seems that they're saying this year the weather is going to be pleasant. How that plays out, I really don't know.
Last year wasn't too bad either.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that works out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of like the aspect each year and the anticipation, of like experiencing, as you put it, the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And not just that. I mean, there's a whole bunch. There's like a whole ritual of things that I enjoy doing this time of the year, and of course, decorating the house being one of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, films. I trail run. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to so much in the last little while because of work, but I trail run, and this is probably my favorite time of the year to be on the trails.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to experience that atmosphere. I think best when you're out there, firsthand.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
So I mean that's cool, man. It's the perfect time of the year.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it.
And it's too bad it's too short.
Well, yeah, it is too bad.
Yeah.
It is too bad. And with this whole it's global warming time. uh, Things seem to be getting shorter in terms of the fall. The fall becoming more. It's becoming a two sort of.
Yeah, the extremes
Yeah.
seem to be kicking in more so than the different seasons. Even spring, it's either really cold in spring, and then it turns really hot all of a sudden. There's no the in between part is very short lived, much like fall. You either have like today was hot.
Tell me about it.
For this time of year, it was actually pretty hot, and when we were up at my wife's aunt's cottage there, we were out in their back deck, and I was like sweating. I go, this is like end of September. It should be mild weather, and we were at a point where we're almost breaking records as far as heat for this time of year, and I was like, this is insane. I don't want to have to. Like they had to turn the air conditioning on in the cottage or the house there. It's like this is unheard of around this time of year. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things. It's the extremes that seem to kick in, and the in between part doesn't seem to last very long at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's really sad, but unfortunately, that's I guess the uniqueness of the season, right? That it doesn't last long. And it's a very fast process. You pretty much blink and it's gone. And it's really too bad. Really, really too bad.
Oh yeah. Got a comment there. Yeah, I remember talking about this. It goes, I remember the past show where you guys were talking about people in your area wanting to change the day of the week Halloween actually falls on.
Yeah.
Who would have thought we'd
Yeah.
be where we're at now? Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's always people that are like talking shit, unfortunately, and yeah, they always we have to think of the children. It's like, okay, fine. I go, you know what? Just suck it. You know what I mean? It's like, come on,
Think
it's
of the
Halloween.
children, my ass. It's got nothing to do with the children.
Yeah,
it's
the parents.
it's
the
convenience of the parents that probably don't even like Halloween.
Right? Yeah, it's like I don't want to. Yeah, it's the parents thinking I don't want to have to take out my kids trick or treating on a weeknight. I go, fuck you. It happens
but
once a fucking year.
Do they really want to do it on a weekend, on a Saturday night too?
Well, I mean, most of these people probably don't have a life
not.
anyway.
Huh?
These people probably don't have a life anyway. So
that's the thing. Well, they think they have a life and they want to do something on a Saturday night. They're going to be bitching and moaning it if it was on Saturday night too.
It's these are the people who are not happy unless they're complaining.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? So they got to complain about something. So whenever Halloween comes around, it's always like, oh, we should do this and have it on the weekend all the time so kids can go out and experience it longer. Yeah, like you have your kids stay out until 11 o'clock anyway. What the hell's wrong with you? You want your kids in bed by 8, 9 o'clock the latest, and you think you're going to have your kids out until 11 o'clock just because it's on a fucking Saturday? Come on.
See, now Alex is all revved up. I love it.
Fuck. These people, man. Holy shit, man. They have nothing better to do but bitch and complain.
See, I told you shouldn't have had that pumpkin spice burrito.
Yeah. Fuck them is what I say.
What?
Fuck them is what I say.
Yeah. I mean, what else? What else do you sort of look forward to this time of the year? Maybe food, maybe whatever.
Oh,
something else. There's got to be something else that intrigues you about this time of the year that you look forward to.
Aside from Thanksgiving, maybe?
Huh?
Maybe Thanksgiving is about all.
Thanksgiving.
No, you know what? It's obviously Thanksgiving is for the food aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Because you get to have a lot of good food.
Just fall asleep anyways after eating the turkey.
Who cares? No, we usually don't have turkeys. We usually don't have turkey.
Oh
no.
wait, what do you have?
We have everything but turkey.
Everything but turkey.
You gotta remember, I'm Italian, right? So
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. What do you have?
No, we pasta, obviously. Yeah. No, desserts, cannolis. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Pumpkin spice cannolis?
No, just regular. Just regular.
Yeah. It's it's hard to explain the atmosphere itself other than you have to experience, and most people do experience it. There are people that like it and there are people that hate it, and I don't think there's an in-between aspect of that. I don't think there's a gray area, if you will, when it comes to Halloween. Either you hate it or you love it, and I think that goes to say with a lot of things that are sort of related to Halloween, the aspects, like, for crying out loud, I see. We usually, because our anniversary or wedding anniversary is around this time of the year too, and we usually go somewhere, and for years we were going to Frankenmuth, Michigan, and I love that little place. It's like paradise in the middle of a shithole. I don't want to say a shithole, but there's lots of good places in Michigan. Don't get me wrong. But when the place is in between Flint and Saginaw,
yeah,
you're like, wow, this is not what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you go there? Why lots of places like this elsewhere, but there's not. I mean, it just and I've mentioned this a whole bunch of times. One of the primary reasons why I loved going there was because it was a small little town. It is a small little town, don't get me wrong. And they do the whole town up in this harvest sort of Halloween hybrid traditional sort of when you drive down the street, they got the corn husks up against the lights and
Mm-hmm.
pumpkins everywhere and scarecrow, you name it. They do everyone gets in the mood, gets everyone else into the mood. I think.
You know what? It's like that predominantly in the States. It's not so much here in Canada,
I know,
unfortunately. It's
and we've said that a million times, and
yeah,
it really sucks. It
it
really
does.
does.
It does.
I mean, if I lived in a small little town, I'd really want to do that too.
Sure. I
And,
live in a small little town, and no one here does fuck all.
yeah, but it's not
You
really
know?
that's not really anymore.
Well,
It's built up a bit more.
considering I came from Toronto, yeah, it's small,
Well, yeah,
right?
it's small compared to Toronto, but
yeah, but I mean, like very few people decorate here. Not that a lot of people decorated in Toronto, but because it's such a big city, you could find things. My old neighbor obviously was one of them, and we're well known in the area because we've been doing it for so long, right?
Yeah.
We've been doing it for about 20 years now, right? So
Yep.
everybody in the general area knows that this is where you go for the haunted house on Halloween, right?
And they're going to be disappointed this year. No,
Oh yeah, huge.
Is your friend going to still do it, or is he not? Gonna...
He may still decorate. I haven't really had a chance to talk to him yet, but he may still decorate his lawn.
But he probably won't go all out, obviously.
No, and he won't because what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, it's like because over the 20 years we've accumulated a lot of things, right? Like we have 2 or 3 different smoke machines going during the whole presentation. We have all of these strobe lights and sound effects and all kinds of decorations. I mean, if anybody's interested in looking at some of the stuff, if you look me up on YouTube, like I have my own channel, for lack of a better term, under my name, and you'll be able to see a walkthrough of both in the day and at night of what we do. And you'll get an idea of what it looks like. And it's not like he has a big property, because in Toronto nothing's very big, right? As far as properties are concerned, it's very all condensed. But we cram a lot of shit into his little property, right? It's like it's amazing, and we even use his driveway as well for the tunnel that we build that kids have to sort of go through once they get their candy. So they walk up the walkway to the steps where his wife usually is the one who's handing out the candy, and then they have to go through to the driveway and walk through this tunnel that we set up.
Yeah,
and that's where usually myself and someone else hide and scare the shit out of the kids. And we've had screamers in the past, man, like real like adults and kids alike. Like we've had people just sort of scream and run.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious, especially when we get the adults. When we get the adults, it's very very fulfilling.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've had some screamers in the past.
Some screamers. Those are the best.
Oh yeah, definitely. We've had some teenagers like literally run through the bushes because they got scared shitless.
And that's when you want to have your camera going, Mm-hmm. You want to capture that moment because that's the best moment.
The problem is
your display is effective when a kid goes screaming or a teenager or whatever.
Yeah, I mean we've had to put pylons like on the street, just because we've had kids running out of there of the tunnel and going onto the streets, just so we can slow traffic down.
Yeah, and
the cop there's a police station like a few blocks away from where I used to live and where my neighbor lives still, right? Yeah. And they all because we've been doing this so long, they all know we do this.
Yeah.
And they don't say anything. In fact, if anything, they appreciate the fact that we put those pylons there just sort of as a precaution. Yeah. So you don't have, people driving down at insane speeds and have kids all of a sudden run out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
One year we had and I don't know who it was, obviously, but someone complained to the police that someone was videotaping kids, insinuating that we were some kind of fucking pedophiliac, like pedophiles. Yeah. Sorry,
there's always got to be somebody to take the fun.
But here's the funny thing: we can't, because all of us are involved in one way or another. So if I'm in tunnel scaring kids, when do I have the chance of videotaping? You see what I'm saying? So the cops had to do what they had to do. They had to come to the house and sort of do what they had to do. Like,
well, yeah, they had to look into it.
But even they said it. You know what? We know you guys don't do that, right? But we had to come here because it was a complaint.
Yeah.
And whatever, because there's so many people who are there who come to the house.
Yeah.
Because they've heard about it or whatever, who take pictures with us, who videotape it, you know, and do all of that stuff. So we don't get the chance because we're there busy trying to scare the shit out of the people. You know what I mean? It's like, when do we have a chance to videotape anything?
Exactly.
Right? It's everybody else who's there with their phones and videotaping and taking pictures of us with their kids after, you know, after they've gone through the whole thing, and even with themselves and what have you, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things, and even the cops know that, right? They came by and they said, you know, we're here because we have to be. We know you guys aren't doing this, you know, and don't worry about it, whatever, and off you go, so to speak, right?
Well, dude, that's it.
Yeah.
We're finished.
We are finished. It's 11 o'clock already.
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
Yes.
I'm tired, yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can tell.
Can you tell? Yeah. I want to thank Mr. X for coming on, and once again, go to YouTube and check out Mr. X Dreams, and the podcast is the same, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And guys, don't forget to hit subscribe here on our channel, on the YouTube channel, and we'll be back next Sunday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To keep a close eye on what the guest will be. Wait a sec. What's next week?
What is next week? Is it Thanksgiving next week?
No.
No,
it's not. It's the 4th. So I think that's when I've asked Tim Shaw if he would
I
like to
believe
come
so.
on.
Yeah.
So we'll find out if Tim will be on the show. If not, we'll let you know. Obviously, just check out our Facebook group for our updates. That's where we usually put all the updates.
Yep.
First and foremost, pretty much, which is www.facebook.com/Nocturnal Frequency Radio. Until next Sunday night, folks, thank you for tuning in and watching us on the YouTube channel here. We'll see you next weekend. Have a good one, folks.
Take care, everyone.
You know what? You know what I forgot to do?
What's that?
I forgot to say, damn, I forgot to put the music in.
The music?
Yeah, the music.
Which music?
The music I'm about to play.
YouTube won't hear it.
That's right. Okay. Till next Sunday.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good night.